Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Climate Live session for students, educators, and the public, which is a video series brought to you by the Columbia Climate School. My name is Laurel Zaima Sheehy, and I am the Assistant Director of K12 and Continuing Education at the Columbia Climate School, and I'm facilitating today's session today. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Climate School or are joining us for the first time, the Columbia Climate School was founded in July 2020, and it's Columbia University's first new school in 25 years and also the first climate school of its kind in the country. It is dedicated to advancing transdisciplinary climate research, and as a hub for innovative climate solutions, the Climate School brings together experts from across the fields to address the most pressing climate challenges of our time. The Columbia Climate School is committed to shaping future leaders to drive climate solutions forward in every sector by offering educational programs for degree-seeking students, high school students, teachers, professional learners, and the public. And by equipping change makers with the knowledge and the skills needed to build solutions, the Climate School is empowering these essential stakeholders for the fight for a just and prosperous society on a healthy planet. And what we're hoping to do with these Climate Live K-12 sessions is to introduce you all to the interdisciplinary work through scientific and experts and practitioners. And these monthly sessions run through the academic year from October through June. Each month we focus on a different topic, and it's also directed towards a different age range. And so for today's topic, Careers for a Changing Climate, we are going to hear from Francesca Edralin, who is going to share her career journey and experiences in sustainability. Her work includes working at the World Wildlife Fund and her current studies at the London School of Economics and Political Science. So we're going to hear all about her journey. So from volunteering and local projects to internships and advocacy, there are many ways for young people to begin shaping their own sustainable futures and turn their passions into actions. So in this session, we're going to continue to explore how K-12 students can build meaningful experiences today and open doors to careers in conservation and climate action. So in the chat, I'm going to put links to our Climate Live future events through June, our Climate Live YouTube playlist of all past sessions, as well as my email if you have any questions. But you will also notice that the Q&A is open. So feel free to populate any questions that you may have for Francesca throughout the presentation, and we'll leave plenty of time to address them at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Francesca.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It's very exciting that we have a very international audience today. And if you have any questions at all, we will dedicate time towards the end of the discussion to answer them. So feel free to pop any questions in there. And with that, I'm going to share first a brief presentation about my personal journey with climate action, starting from when I was in high school to my career today. And hopefully that can give some inspiration for those on the line and how they can kickstart their climate journey or just find ways to get more involved in their local community or in school. So with that, I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay, great. And I believe everyone can see my screen now. So yes, the theme of this session is Careers for a Changing Climate, starting your journey in sustainability. And first, I wanted to give a brief introduction about myself. So who am I? I'm Francesca Edralin. I'm a first-generation Filipina American with over 6 years of experience in environmental activism, storytelling, and partnership building. And so my experience spans from managing global brand partnerships at WWF, which is the world's largest conservation organization, to getting the chance to attend COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland as a student reporter, to local environmental activism, where I've planned eco teach-ins and eco festivals for students at my alma mater, the George Washington University. And throughout my journey, since I was in high school to now, a core theme has always just been a drive for collaborative climate action and youth-driven leadership, because I really believe that the youth's passion and involvement in the climate movement is so important, and there is an angle for everyone in this effort. So here are just a few photos of me getting the chance to work at WWF and the places it's taken me. I'm getting the chance to attend COP26. Also, a photo of me protesting in the streets of DC. So I've shown up in many different spaces in the climate movement, and I think it really shows that there's such a wide variety of ways to get involved, and you're never really confined to one angle or another. And so, speaking of angles, I think a helpful thing to think about, especially for folks on this call, is what might be your angle or angles for climate action. Because it's really true that you don't just have to be an environmental science expert or someone that's good in the laboratory to be helpful in the climate movement. There's an angle for writers, for journalists, for actors, artists, everything of the sort. But if you're not really sure exactly what your angle is just yet, here are some questions that I've reflected on in my life, and I've had colleagues and fellow students reflect on to see how they can be most helpful in the climate movement. So, some questions include what subjects might you enjoy most in school? So, if it's math, maybe you might be particularly suitable for climate data analysis. Or if you really are strong at writing or arts, maybe it's an angle of climate journalism or creating climate art. What hobbies do you enjoy out of school? So, if you enjoy music or sports, there are ways to really leverage those skill sets as well for environmental causes. Think about too, what kinds of like angles do you enjoy working with? Do you like working with facts? Or are you more of a creative thinker? Do you enjoy working with people? Do you like working with your hands in the soil? Reflecting on what, really makes you tick in that sense might help you think about how you might want to, use your talents. Also, are there any specific apps or games or content that you like spending time on, especially in the realm of TikTok or video games? There's some really interesting angles of how we've been trying to integrate climate into video games or in TikTok. And in my latest role at WWF, we actually did a lot of that interesting work. And then also thinking about what changes would you love to see in your school or community, since a lot of the change is really doable in your own hands. And some of the changes that I wanted to see in my own school, I made happen with the help of friends and teachers. And so it's really possible if you have a vision for the change you want to see, to be able to act on it. And there really is a place for everybody, regardless of your interests and talents. And how to start, here are just some high-level ideas, and in different stages of your journey. If you first haven't thought about how you want to get started, maybe you want to first off start with exploring what the climate movement might look like in your angle. So maybe it's looking at following climate or nature creators online. Maybe you want to learn more about environmental issues, so watching documentaries or YouTube videos about the environment, maybe reading web stories or books about animals, oceans, climate change. You could also try free online learning courses, as there are many, and they could be, fun and incentivized, such as through games or quizzes. And then also thinking about, from a local sense, what might be the environmental issues in your local area. If you've done the exploration and want to join an effort, that can look like maybe joining your school's eco club, or maybe your school has recycling or sustainability projects. Many towns have local cleanup days or tree planting days, so volunteering for that. Schools oftentimes will have programming such as for Earth Day or Climate Week or science fairs. And you can also join youth groups or outside of your school, environmental programs in your community. And then really honing in on the idea of creating things. So if if you're seeing a gap and you want to be a part of something, but you don't necessarily see something you want to join already, there's also so many opportunities to create initiatives or projects, such as starting a project at school focused on recycling or saving energy. Can also create posters or social media posts online to raise awareness on climate issues, even making videos, presentations, or blogs if you have a talent in writing or video editing. And you can even organize a class or school challenge and incentivize students in your school community, such as a plastic-free week or doing an audit of the litter at your school. And so next slide. And so, to give you even more inspiration about my own journey, I want to talk a bit about how I actually started in the climate movement. So, I was born and raised in New Jersey, but my family is originally from the Philippines. And since I was young, I saw how drastic the effects of climate change are, not just with my family members in the Philippines, but also growing up near the Jersey Shore and seeing the effects of hurricanes like Hurricane Sandy. So, since I was in high school, I really wanted to take action on climate in different ways. And so, for example, in my high school, I was really interested in starting a hydroponic tower garden. And I took an AP environmental science course in high school. And through the help of my teachers and also friends in that class that wanted to grow vegetables and plants, we were able to purchase a kit with school funding to create our own hydroponic powered tower garden in class. And we actually got to plant and take care of the vegetables we grew. And then at the end of the season, we got the chance to actually harvest the vegetables and make salads out of it. So it's actually a really rewarding experience. And after I departed from high school, my teacher actually continued the tower garden and created a whole initiative out of it. So that was something that was small, and it was just an idea I had, but then having teacher buy-in as well as course mates that were also very interested in gardening. It was really great to start an initiative just from an idea I had in school. I also try to get more involved in the local community and broader environmental movements. So I grew up just outside of New York City, and in 2017, when I was in high school, the UN headquarters was actually hosting a youth assembly focused on climate change. And so I had applied to be one of the student representatives, and luckily I got the chance to attend as a youth delegate and got to connect with environmental youth activists from all over the world, which was super interesting and cool. And we got to attend different design sessions and learning roundtables on ways that we wanted to act on the climate crisis and give us ideas on what we could bring to our local communities. And then I also attended some climate protests and marches in New York and the DC area as well. And those were really inspirational to just be a part of a movement bigger than myself. And it got me really interested in climate politics. And actually getting to attend these protests in high school actually inspired me to want to be more involved in climate action politically. And that led to me actually choosing to attend the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. for my undergraduate degree, where I majored in international environmental studies and minored in sustainability. And one of the key things I was involved in at GW was I was actually the community engagement assistant for GW's sustainability hub called Sustainable GW. And this was an incredible opportunity to be involved in local environmental activism. And so I got to put on environmental programming for students and work with sustainability students part of the department. Got the chance to host documentary screenings, climate teach-ins, and then at the same time connect GW to the wider DC environmental movement. So connected with sustainability departments from other universities, but also other nonprofit organizations and initiatives in the broader DC area. And it was really inspiring and impactful way for me to take direct action and see if there were any events or gaps I saw locally, getting the chance to have the sustainability department support and resources and networks to make any ideas happen, which was really great. I got to start a lot of really cool initiatives, and I think it really kind of helped to foster the activist in me that I had in high school. And parallel to that, I also got really interested in global and digital environmental activism as well. And I got involved in a global youth-led environmental nonprofit called Think Ocean Society. Think Ocean Society has chapters in over 20 countries around the world. And given what I was studying at GW, where I was focused on the intersection of international studies and environmental studies, I was interested in connecting my local environmental activism with more global movements. And so I served as the director of global outreach and marketing for Think Ocean. And this is where I oversaw Think Ocean's social media calendar, digital engagement strategy, and coordinated really cool and fascinating global campaigns across different contexts. So it was really creating a global campaign vision, but then working with local activists from Africa, Asia, the US to implement these campaigns on the ground. And as a result of it, I got the chance to, build a network of passionate youth activists from around the world. And to this day, I keep in contact with a lot of them. And then in parallel, the other big thing I was involved in my undergraduate degree was a news organization called Planet Forward, which happened to be actually hosted at George Washington University. And the really great thing about Planet Forward is that they are an environmental news site specifically targeted for students to publish their own stories and work. And so, with that, a big angle that Planet Forward prioritizes is that you don't have to be a trained journalist or writer to produce climate stories. In fact, I didn't have a writing background in my undergrad. I ended up loving the work at Planet Forward so much that I ended up minoring in journalism towards the end of my undergraduate degree. But it was just from writing papers and blogs from my classes that I realized I could repurpose some of this work onto Planet Forward's platforms. And so some of the opportunities I got through Planet Forward is I got to be their first Sustainable Storytelling Fellow in 2021, where I ended up developing a documentary focused on the Green Bronx Machine, which is actually based in the New York City area. And they're a really awesome organization focused on bringing food education and hydroponic tower gardens into classroom curriculum. And they have K-12 curriculum, and the whole point is to integrate growing your own food and food security into all different aspects of curriculum, ranging from math to science to writing. And it's a way to really engage young people at a young age to think about food and sustainability. And I got the chance to interview some folks involved in the Green Bronx Machine's effort, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic and what they were doing to help sustain food security in the Bronx. And then I also submitted some pieces that won awards through Planet Forward as well. And being involved in Planet Forward really pushed me out of my comfort zone to think about how can I make a difference, not just through activism, but also through writing and communications and amplifying the work of other organizations and other activists. And I kind of saw myself less of wanting to be the center of activism work, but rather the person that's connecting the dots and getting the chance to amplify really cool work that's already happening on the ground. Like, for example, here, one of my winning articles was actually spotlighting a dear friend of mine who I met through Think Ocean, and he's an activist based in Cameroon, who's particularly did some really cool work in creating boats and furniture from plastic pollution in Cameroon. And I wrote a piece specifically highlighting his work and journey, and it was really cool because after that piece got published and won the Planet Forward Award, he actually got a lot more attention, a lot more requests for work after the fact. So I really made me realize how much I love being a communicator as well and how important communications is in the climate movement. And so, kind of connecting all the dots here of what I was doing in undergrad, my first job out of college was working for WWF, the World Wildlife Fund, which was a dream organization I'd been wanting to work at since I was a little girl. I mean, many folks are familiar with the panda logo. I definitely was. And WWF's headquarters was actually only a few blocks away from my university at GW. And it was always my dream to get my foot in the door. And I applied to countless internships in my undergrad only to not get a response. But finally, my hard work paid off because in 2021, WWF launched their first ever Bridge internship program, which is an internship program that still runs to this day, specifically targeting students from underrepresented backgrounds in conservation and giving them a foot in the door. And so I was part of the first cohort, and I served as an intern for their media and external affairs team. And I really got to leverage some of my background in environmental journalism and storytelling for this role. And then I enjoyed the work so much, and I loved the work environment and the folks I worked with that I knew I wanted to work there full time after. And so, luckily, when I graduated from undergrad, they had a full-time role to work on their consumer engagement team, where I got the chance to co-manage the execution and storytelling of consumer-facing brand campaigns. So really leveraging my storytelling background, but at the same time getting to work on partnership building, which is another angle that I really enjoy doing in the climate space. And I got the chance to work on some really cool campaigns. For example, pictured here, I got to create a campaign with our corporate partner, Warner Brothers Discovery, where we created a symbolic Adopt a Shark campaign for Shark Week to get folks to donate to WWF and also learn more about shark conservation and the importance of sharks in their local ecosystems. I know earlier in this talk I talked about gaming and the importance of integrating climate themes into gaming, and I got the chance to work on some cool partnerships in the live streaming and gaming space. And so some companies that folks might know, like Minecraft, we worked on some campaigns and integrating bees and pandas into Minecraft. And so there are these really creative ways to integrate sustainability themes into mainstream entertainment and gaming. And this was a really incredible role for me to dip my toes in this world. And then in parallel, because I've always just been really passionate about empowering youth in conservation, I also served as the chair for WWF's Early Conservation Network. And this is specifically an employee resource group for WWF's employees who are young environmentalists. And so in parallel, I did a lot of work in amplifying the role of youth voices in conservation, And I went out of my way a lot to write blogs and social media posts to really leverage all the incredible voices of the young people at WWF. And I think when I left WWF, I ended up hopefully making an impact and inspiring the organization as a whole to pay more attention to young people. And to this day, I'm still connected with the WWF community in the US and still try to help them as I can. And so, with some of the organizations I talked about, I just wanted to also share some opportunities for folks on this call to get involved. Like, for example, WWF has a Panda Ambassador program that is eligible for those started from high school, ranging to adults. And so, with the Panda Ambassador program, you could apply, and they're just looking for folks who are really passionate about conservation and want to enact conservation projects in their local communities. And then once a year in March, they also will fly out Panda ambassadors to lobby on behalf of WWF in Congress. And I've participated in those lobby days a few times, and they've been super rewarding. So, highly recommend folks look at the Panda Ambassador program if you want to get involved in WWF's work. And if you happen to be in undergrad or grad school right now, WWF also has bridge internships. So, that internship program that allowed myself to get my foot in the door a few years ago, they still are running it every summer. So, definitely look into that. Definitely, if you have any pieces or blogs or want to start writing, Planet Forward is always accepting different mediums of content. So whether it's a written blog or a documentary or photos, just go on the Planet Forward website and you click to publish. And I'm happy to connect you with editors if you're interested in that. I also wanted to highlight Green Bronx Machine, which is the Bronx-based organization I had highlighted in my Planet Forward documentary. And for those who might be educators in the room or interested in integrating sustainability and food security in your curriculum, the Green Bronx Machine has some really comprehensive curriculum on their website. And the founder, Stephen, he's inspirational and amazing and happy to connect folks. And there's free resources as well for those who might be constrained on resources in the moment. And then lastly, Think Ocean, which is the global youth-led nonprofit I'd mentioned earlier. They're always looking for folks to join, ranging from high school to college. And they are looking for chapters all over the world, and they're also looking for folks to help manage on the global side of things. So if you're more interested in working with them on a global sense versus just hosting your own local Think Ocean chapter, they have a lot of postings on their website, and they're always looking to hire. So would highly recommend if you're interested in getting involved in any of these organizations, feel free to reach out to me after. And then kind of to conclude here, just the main theme I wanted folks to take away with is that the climate movement needs people from all backgrounds. They need scientists, storytellers, engineers, artists, lawyers, everything in between. So whatever you're good at or whatever you're talented in, there's a place for you here, and there is an angle for everybody since sustainability touches all aspects of our lives. And so if you're on this call thinking about what's next for you, here's just some seeds of inspiration. So maybe it's looking out, exploring where your angle might be. So, what part of climate work might excite you most? Is it science, policy, art, community organizing? Maybe it's a combination of all of them. I think in my climate journey, I've been really interested in leveraging a lot of different angles. So, never feel confined to just one. You could also just start where you are. So if there are school clubs or local events happening, you could join those and see where that takes you. Since for me, it started with just joining my local protests or joining my local conferences. And then you start to build networks and expertise, and that's where you can kind of build up from there. Can also just start by building something small, such as for me, it was that hydroponic tower garden in my AP environmental science class. But starting with a small project or a campaign, or even just talking to someone like a family member, your early experience doesn't have to be something formal, and it certainly was not for me. So starting with just the people closest around you, or maybe it's a project that you are assigned in school and really linking it to climate. Also, just finding your people, since I think community is so, so important in the climate space, and they really push you to think better and with new ideas. So maybe it's connecting with your local youth climate networks or fellowships, or even maybe just finding one mentor who works at sustainability and having them really guide you along your journey. And then lastly, don't wait to feel ready. Since the movement needs you now, climate change is such an urgent issue, and we need young people at any age and stage of their lives. So, whatever stage you're at, we welcome you. And so, thank you so much for listening all this way through. And if you have any questions or want to connect offline, I'm happy to answer any questions here, or you can reach out to me through my email, fedralin@gmail.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. But thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. That was incredible. Your career journey has been so inspiring. I think you've done so much already that a lot of students, I'm sure it resonates with a lot of students in terms of the work that they're interested in, also the pathways that they can do right now locally. I love your advice about start where you are because there is so much work to be done all over the world and making that connection to global and local climate, kind of like what you were saying was your interest in college. I think starting local makes a lot of sense for our high schoolers in the chat. So I want to open it up for questions. Again, you have the option to populate your questions in the Q&A, and then we can read them aloud, and Francesca can answer them live. But while we are waiting for some questions to trickle in, maybe I'll kick it off with a few myself. So I was wondering what the role of mentors played on your career path, if any, if you had any mentors throughout, high school or undergrad or even now in your master's program.
Yeah, I think mentors play such a big role. For example, I think one of my first ever mentors who has still played a theme in my life today, the Stephen Ritz, the founder of the Green Bronx Machine. Since it was the first time we met had actually been, I was on a school trip to Milan and we were in a food sustainability summit. And he was one of the keynote speakers at the summit. And after the fact, I ended up speaking to him briefly after and taking a selfie because I was so inspired by his message and the power of the Green Bronx Machine. And he ended up being such a key theme in my life in different stages where, as you can tell, he actually was one of the people that inspired me to want to start the hydroponic tower garden in my high school because he, as part of the Green Bronx Machine model, had implemented hydroponic tower gardens. And then when I was in college and I was tasked with creating a documentary for Planet Forward, I was thinking about who would be best to interview or what initiative I wanted to spotlight. And then I had the light bulb moment of I should interview Steven and make the documentary about the Green Bronx Machine. And he was so delighted, and he remembered me 4 years later from that one encounter. Since then, he's always just checked in on me, connected me with folks. And right now, I'm a part-time fellow at a sustainability consulting firm in New York. And I think what had helped me get the role was he had actually been long-term friends with the founder of the agency that I work at now. And so he was able to connect those dots. And in parallel, I was at a random corporate sustainability conference a few months ago in Arizona, and he had actually been one of the speakers there. And we had not known that we were going to both be at the same conference. And so we connected again. And I think after the fact, he like posted me on Instagram and he was like, it was so nice to connect with Francesca, who I've first met in Italy way back when, and then, has always been a theme in my life. And so I think people that you meet in the most random places, or even when you're young, they'll really stick with you. And there are also so many folks from my undergraduate degree, ranging from Planet Forward's editors to professors, who've also really been able to connect me with opportunities and still check on me to this day. And so mentors have always been able to open and pave the way. And I'm so grateful for all of them since it's always been them connecting me to an opportunity in it. And I think once you never say no to anything, you're always a yes person, they'll remember that and they'll just keep sharing opportunities with you.
Oh, I love that story. And I think that's such a great example of how important networking is and also just how, I mean, the world is huge and the space of climate and sustainability work is also massive, but it also like can feel small sometimes, like when you start to run into similar people in the same
Yeah.
circles, like, and it just kind of it shows the importance and the power of collaboration too and partnerships, which I love. So we have some questions in the chat. One is, do you mind putting up the last slide of your email just so some folks can access it? I think someone wanted to share it with a student that's attending George Washington University now.
Sure. Yes, I am happy to share it one more time. And then if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer it at the same time, if that's helpful.
Okay, perfect. And we do have another question. So someone asked, um, kind of from your experience as a student, how can we connect students and researchers to policymakers to join real projects and create some impact?
Yeah, I think when I was studying in Washington, D.C., I think there was a really natural link because a lot of our professors happened to either have experience working in policy or in Congress, or they happen to just be connected, or maybe they worked in a space that I think it was very natural to um, get the chance to work with professors on projects. And it was very encouraged in college to get the chance to intern part-time at the same time as studying. And so there was a lot of connection between connecting the professional world to what we're working on in school. But I think that's applicable to wherever you are. I think, especially in the current administration, local politics is so important in furthering climate goals. And so I think wherever you are, getting the chance to connect with local policymakers is so important. And young people are such an important uh, group that they want to target. I remember when I was in high school, I was involved in my congressman's youth advisory council, and he was actually one of the chairs of the energy committee back in the day. And he was so interested in hearing what we had to say, especially since we're such an important constituent group. And so I think never underestimate how valuable young people's voices are. And if you reach out to, if you're not able to reach the congressman, reach out to their legislative assistant, or maybe show up to local climate events or protests. I did a bit of canvassing too when I was in high school. So I think there is such a direct tie to being involved in local politics and local elections and the climate movement. And so whether it's through school or wanting to be involved outside of it, or maybe a combination of both, I think wherever you are, there's an angle there.
Yeah, I completely echo everything that you said. Power of local politics and also the power of youth voices is cannot be underestimated. I know we are over time, but I want to get maybe one more question in if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Um, so if you're in high school and you're thinking about where to apply for college, how important do you think it is when picking a specific college or university and thinking about like the opportunities that you have outside of the classroom to have impact? Or do you think it's possible, like no matter where you go, you can make a difference anywhere?
Yeah, this is a really great question and something that I thought a lot about when I was in high school as well. I think it depends partially on to what extent you want to be involved in things outside of the classroom. And I think in high school, I realized that I love doing things outside the classroom. And I remember when I was touring George Washington University as a high schooler, one of their biggest things was that DC is your classroom. And I really like the idea of that because, well, I think studies are incredibly important. I'm a very like, I need to apply what I'm learning in school to what's happening, outside of school. And so I intentionally picked George Washington University because of the access to a lot of organizations. And it was just very normal at George Washington to intern outside of school. And so I think when I had graduated from GW, I had graduated with a lot of internship experience. But that being said, having a like studying in a city might not be accessible to everybody. It might not be people's preference. People might prefer a larger state school where there's, more school spirit, or they might prefer an environment that's closer to nature. And, studying the environment in the heart of DC, I didn't have the best access to nature. And so I think in the post-COVID era, there have been a lot more opportunities for virtual internships as well. And the vast majority of my internships after COVID were virtual. And so I think it is now becoming a lot more accessible. If you don't want to physically be in a place, you can still be involved in initiatives and internships either virtually, or if you're interested in doing local environmental work, I think there might be really cool local initiatives, especially maybe if you are studying in a place that's very nature rich, you might have access to more places to do field work, or maybe studying in the lab, or getting the chance to actually maybe connect with nature more during your undergraduate degree. So I think it really depends on what you value. And then also, I know many universities offer short-term study abroads, whether in DC or internationally, where there's a focus on sustainability. I personally studied abroad in Copenhagen, Denmark, because I was really interested in studying in a city that was once coined the greenest city in the world. And seeing sustainability integrated into that city was very inspiring. And my courses were focused on sustainable development. So there are many ways to integrate it. And I don't think where you choose to study makes or break it. It's just a matter of what kind of learning environment you want to be a part of when you're doing your undergraduate degree. And then if not, there's always you're doing your master's, which I'm doing right now based in London. So you have many opportunities to study, and this decision is not make or break by any means.
Thank you so much, Francesca. This whole session has been just so inspiring and enlightening for myself and all of our viewers today. So we can't thank you enough for spending your time with us.
Thank you so much. This was such a lovely experience, and I am happy to connect with anybody offline after. And thank you so much for giving me the platform, and I hope all of you have felt inspired in some way to be more involved in the climate movement.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Join us next month for Climate Live. Remember, our last session is in June, so May will be our second to last one. So hope to see you next month. Thanks again, Francesca. Thanks, everyone. Take care.